I am mindful that in a few days, many of us will sit at tables filled with foods we've waited for all year. Maybe it's your grandmother's stuffing that no one else can quite replicate, or your favorite casserole, or that dessert you promise yourself you'll make from scratch, but always end up buying from someone who does it better. Maybe your table includes tamales, lumpia, or a pot of greens that has perfumed your family's kitchen for generations. Maybe it's an eclectic mix of tradition and experimentation, something from TikTok next to something from your great-grandparents. Whatever your table looks like, and whoever sits around it, Thanksgiving, in this broader season of gratitude, is a time when food becomes not just nourishment, but symbol. A symbol of what sustains us. A symbol of memory, interdependence, family, chosen community, heritage, and home. But today, I want to invite us deeper than the meal itself. I want to look at the food on our tables and see teachers. To see each ingredient as a relationship. To see each bite as a story that shapes who we are and how we choose to be in the world. Because gratitude, in its deepest sense, is not a fleeting feeling, but a way of perceiving reality. It is not something we feel only when life is going well. It is something we practice so that we can remember that life is good even when everything around us suggests otherwise. Gratitude is a discipline of awakening to the truth that we live in the midst of gifts. Gifts that are everywhere if we are willing to notice. Botanist and writer Robin Wall Kimmerer, an enrolled member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation, invites us into this shift in perception. She writes, "When we think about the world as a natural resource or commodity, we think we own it. We think we're in charge of it. But when we think about those berries or those bird songs or the rain as a gift, we are much more tender with it. When someone gives us a gift, we are filled with gratitude and we want to give something back." What Kimmerer is offering us is a fundamental reframing. How we think about the world determines how we act in it. If we treat the world as a commodity, something to extract, consume, and profit from, then we treat it with the indifference of a customer to a store clerk. But if we see the world as a gift, freely offered, abundantly given, then something in us softens. We become humble. We become responsible. We understand ourselves as participants in a web of reciprocity. So let us begin where many of us will find ourselves this week, the table. Imagine your Thanksgiving table laid out before you. Take something as simple as a pumpkin pie, for example. A pumpkin pie is not merely a dessert, but the culmination of countless relationships. Before it reached your plate, it was a seed saved from a pumpkin last year, soil alive with microorganisms, sunlight from millions of miles away, rain cycling through clouds and rivers. It was pollinators visiting blossoms unbidden. It was laborers planting, harvesting, packing, transporting, stocking. It was a baker, maybe you, maybe a family member, maybe someone at a local shop, transforming raw gifts into nourishment. The pie is not a thing. It is a story. It is a network of gifts. The same is true of everything on our tables. Cranberries from distant bogs, potatoes pulled from the earth by hands that may never touch our own, bread made from wheat shaped by wind and rain, spices harvested in places we may never see, sweet potatoes whose presence in North America is inseparable from African agricultural knowledge carried across the Middle Passage. If we look closely, Everything on our tables is an act of survival, resilience, ecology, and history. Nothing arises from nowhere. Each ingredient whispers to us, you are not alone. You are sustained by countless gifts. This is the heart of Kimmerer's teaching. Gratitude begins with noticing. Noticing that your meal is not isolated, but the physical expression of interdependence. Noticing that you are eating sunlight and rainwater, soil and labor, memory and hope. To notice, to truly notice, is to wake up. And once you awaken to the world as a gift, the only response is gratitude and responsibility. Gratitude that softens the heart, responsibility that draws us into right relationship. To be grateful for our food means honoring the people who grow, harvest, and prepare it, often underpaid, unseen, and unprotected. To be grateful means acknowledging the climate forces threatening these very ingredients: drought, flooding, soil loss, disappearing pollinators. It means recognizing that while some enjoy abundance, others face scarcity. Gratitude, in its deepest sense, is not a passive feeling. It is a call to action. Kimmerer warns that part of why humanity stands on the precipice of climate catastrophe is because we have forgotten to see how the world is a gift. We have begun to act as though we own the earth, as if its fate is ours to command. But when we return to the worldview of a gift, we remember who we are: caretakers, not owners, participants, not masters, beloved children of a living earth whose generosity sustains us. Thanksgiving, then, in our Unitarian Universalist tradition, becomes an invitation to practice gratitude with integrity. Gratitude that includes awareness, humility, and responsibility. Our diverse theological sources, whether earth-centered, humanist, Christian, Buddhist, Jewish, or entirely non-theistic, all affirm the interconnectedness of life. Thanksgiving, practiced deeply, becomes a spiritual discipline of honoring that interdependence. To look at a plate of food and say, this is a gift, not a given. This sustains me, so I must sustain others. This is abundance, so I must share. This is the work of many hands, so my hands must do good. This season invites us to recalibrate our sense of reciprocity, our responsibility to one another, and to the world that feeds us. But reciprocity requires truth-telling. And the truth is, millions of people in this country do not have enough to eat. Not abstractly, not symbolically, literally. Recently, SNAP benefits were cut for millions of Americans. Reductions that fall hardest on families, elders, disabled individuals, and children. In a time when food prices remain high and wages lag behind the cost of living, these cuts have pushed countless households into deeper insecurity. Food banks across the country, already strained, report record demand. Teachers keep snacks in their classroom not as treats, but necessities. Elders choose between meals and medication. Parents skip dinner so their children can eat. And many of those who experience hunger are working, sometimes multiple jobs. But the math still doesn't add up. We cannot speak honestly about gratitude, abundance, and gifts without naming the profound inequity in how those gifts are distributed. Hunger is not inevitable. It is the result of policy choices, economic, political, and moral. If we sit at tables filled with food and speak only of gratitude without acknowledging our neighbor's hunger, gratitude becomes hollow. So let us reimagine Thanksgiving, not as a celebration of abundance for its own sake, but as a reminder of our collective responsibility. What if the central question of this holiday were not, what are you thankful for, but what are you doing with your gratitude? What if gratitude were not simply saying thank you, but asking, how can I share what I have been given? To see Thanksgiving as a season of reciprocity is to recognize that gratitude for our own nourishment must move to help ensure others have enough. It is to acknowledge that snap cuts are not abstract numbers, but meals lost, stability threatened, dignity undermined. It is to affirm that we cannot call the earth a gift if we ignore the suffering of those who cannot access the gift. A Thanksgiving rooted in reciprocity calls us to stand in solidarity with those whose tables are sparse or empty. It calls us to honor the hands and histories behind our food. It calls us to embody a gratitude that does not end in emotion, but flows into action. Imagine a Thanksgiving where we bring not only dishes to share, but commitments to uphold. Where every table, ours and our neighbors, become a testimony to human dignity. Where gratitude becomes the seed of justice. Imagine a Thanksgiving where we refuse to avert our eyes from hunger, where we hold the truth with tenderness, that abundance is sacred and meant to be shared, that hunger is unnecessary and should be abolished, that gratitude without reciprocity is incomplete. We were made for completeness. This is the Thanksgiving worth practicing. This is the Thanksgiving worthy of the gifts we receive. This is the Thanksgiving that repairs the world. Thanksgiving is not only a holiday, it is a way of living. When we see the world as a commodity, we become isolated, fearful, and grasping. When we see the world as a gift, we become connected, generous, and tender. This week, may your table become a sacred space. May your meal become a meditation. May your gratitude become a form of prayer. May your awareness become a source of transformation. And may you remember always that the world is a gift. You are part of the giving. May we cause it to be so. Blessed be. Amen. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste. Thank you all so much.